Christopher Cuomo, the former CNN anchor that was busted for covering for his brother, former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo. Well, back during that investigation, Christopher was being deposed. He was being interviewed by attorneys from the New York Attorney General's office, trying to get to the bottom of the whole Governor Cuomo thing. And that deposition has now been released. We're going to go through it. I've got several different clips. We're going to review exactly what Christopher Cuomo was talking about in these depositions, and they get more interesting as we go on. We're going to see that near the end, we have redacted audio depos. So we can see that Christopher Cuomo is going to be talking and answering questions and responding to things, but we're not going to hear what it says because it's all been redacted. But we are going to be able to take a look at Christopher Cuomo's face and see how this feels. Let's start with the first clip. Here is the general observation. Now, to preface this out, Christopher Cuomo is being asked about his brother, Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, that has allegedly been involved in inappropriate touching with a number of members of the governor's staff. They ask him about it. Chris, have you ever seen your brother, inappropriately touching anybody? Here's how that sounds.
On any occasion, whether at these events or some other event, have you observed the governor touching members of his staff?
Yes.
What kind of touching?
Under oath.
The customary touching for him and hellos and goodbyes.
Can you tell us what is the customary touching for Governor Cuomo for hellos and goodbyes?
Hand on the arm, men, women, affectionate.
If you can hear somebody scribbling.
Shake hands, but hand on your arm, two arms. If it's me, hug and kiss.
Yeah, we saw it.
Women, if he knows them, he's going to, do the lean in kiss thing. He's affectionate.
Yeah, he's affectionate.
Let's start with the men and make sure I just have an understanding. So with men, the customary greeting you've observed for Governor Cuomo is to grab them on the forearm or maybe both forearms while shaking hands.
Handshake, grab, hug. It depends who the person is. But Andrew can be, very affectionate.
Very affectionate. Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen a lot of it. We saw a lot of the different mashups that got spread around all over the media. We played many of them here. Is quite affectionate. But you can see exactly what this attorney is doing. When you go into a deposition and you're doing an interview like this, those kind of flippant general answers that maybe sound like you can normally get away with those in a regular conversation don't fly. Well, the standard greetings. Well, let's talk about those. What are the standard greetings? Because obviously we have some differences of opinion about what those might look like. The next clip is about Miss Boylan. This is one of Governor Cuomo's former aides. She was saying that there was a forcible touching of some type. They're asking him about this specifically. Have you ever seen anything about this? Did you ever hear anybody mention whether this was consensual or non-consensual? Here's Christopher Cuomo.
The governor denied that he had forcibly kissed Miss Boylan. Did the governor ever say he had kissed her not forcibly?
No.
Were you part of any conversation in which any of the governor's physical interactions with Miss Boylan were discussed?
Maybe, in terms of how his customary greetings or whatever may have been an aspect of what Boylan was talking about, and I remember that being rejected heavily. I may have even suggested it at some point. I didn't talk so much early on. And I may have said, I remember thinking at least, could she have gotten something wrong? I mean, people can misconstrue things all the time in good faith. And I remember it just being dismissed out of hand that any of this was about confusion or not understanding something as it was intended. That this was all intentional. She was making it up, and she was doing it to hurt Andrew. And nobody was surprised that she was doing that.
Nobody's surprised.
So the entire premise of the discussion was she had made everything up.
Yes.
Very interesting. What's happening here is she's asking about a specific type of conduct, whether there was any actual kissing. And so how do you categorize that kissing? Well, one, it could be forcible, or one, it could be consensual. And so he says, okay, Mr. Christopher Cuomo, when you had conversations with your brother about everything that was going on, you're at CNN, he's the governor, you're all sort of strategizing on how to work your way through this. Was there ever a conversation about whether it was in fact consensual if it's not coerced? And he said, oh, we didn't even think about it that way at all. In fact, we thought it was exactly all fake. So we never even got to the threshold issue of a kiss. We never talked about consensual or forcible because the entire story was made up from the beginning. The premise from day one was that she wanted to go and harm the governor, and that's how they were operating. Next clip we have here is about the public perception from a statement that came out on February 27th. And if you've been a part of this channel, we talked a lot about Cuomo and his activities that were uncovered by the New York Attorney General's office, Letitia James. Here, they're talking about the statement and how Christopher Cuomo actually helped helped Christopher Cuomo, helped Governor Cuomo with his public statement that happened like this.
What did you tell Governor Cuomo was your take on public perception on his February 27th statement?
This is a problem, and you have to explain it, and you have to own that this was bad judgment. And that has to be clear. I mean, my opinion never changed.
And so I guess I'm just trying to understand, was your view or take that you expressed to Governor Cuomo that this statement didn't sufficiently own it?
No, but just that it was going to be a continuing concern. This wasn't a one-day story.
And what did you tell him about public perception about this statement?
That as a Democrat, this was not going to just go away, and he was going to have to deal with it, and that he had to assume that people in his party were going to come after him.
Did you advise your brother to do anything after February 27th, after this statement was issued?
With respect to?
The allegations of sexual harassment against him. So the statement comes out, you have a conversation with him about your take on public perception. And sort of what's the next thing that you're involved in with respect to the allegations of sexual harassment?
I mean, there were more. So, as there were more, he would ask me to listen to what was being said and help him.
Were you involved in the preparation of Governor Cuomo for a press conference in early March?
I was on some of the conversations about it, and it was a very frenetic process, and I just defaulted to speaking to him directly about reinforcing the points that I've made to you. I'm happy to repeat them if you'd like me to. But that was my mantra.
Did you ask to participate in the prep for the press conference in early March?
I don't know about exactly that press conference, but I did from time to time when I felt that I was out of the loop for something that I wanted to understand so that I could have some sense of whether or not this was being handled the way I thought it should. I don't know if that was one of those particular occasions.
So he's describing sort of this process, this assembly line that they have happening, where we talk about one person who's making allegations against the governor. They go through this little public relations sort of ensemble where they put a team together, they address it, they come up with a public statement. We've seen it. We saw the governor's lawyer go out on public TV and make those public statements. Then the governor came out. And so we kind of have this little system that they created. And so Cuomo is saying here, Christopher, that every time there was a new allegation, and there were many of them, he just got back in the loop. And eventually the whole thing just ended up they were just talking because it was such a frequent occurrence that they just cut out all the middlemen. They just were communicating with one another. Now, this is where we get to some of the redacted audio. Now, this is going to sound or look a little weird because they're going to be talking and you're going to feel like you're missing something, but there's no audio. They actually blank the audio out off of the video. And so I'll say blank, blank, blank when they're actually not saying anything that you can hear, but they're obviously saying something during the deposition. And the question is, what are they talking about? You can see on the next video portion of this that Cuomo gets a little bit uncomfortable with some of these questions. Let's take a look at what's happening here.
Did you have any conversations with anyone in the executive chamber or the consultants about how to potentially use the fact
that blank, 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 the fact that somebody
Never.
did some...
On the contrary, my conversations were not to lump Charlotte Bennett in, which was the temptation, which went to my conversations about you need to marshal your facts and know who you're talking about and treat people the right way here. And that this situation had to be given tremendous deference and respect.
I understand that was your perspective. My question was, were you involved in any conversations in which anyone in the executive chamber or the consultants discussed?
Never.
Discuss blank, 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 blank.
Once again, sorry to jump the question. No.
No one ever raised in any conversation you were a part of.
Blank, blank. They didn't raise blank,
No.
blank. And nothing this either, not that?
No.
Wow. Okay.
Or anyone, this text says,
This text says blank,
is
blank,
that
blank.
language that was used by people in the executive chamber?
I never heard it, and I don't agree with it, and I don't believe it to be true.
Interesting. So,
I don't have any
very-
more questions about that, but do Ms. Clark.
So somebody says to him, why did you forward this? So it sounds like it's a text message that he forwarded on, and it's language that he was using that obviously he doesn't agree with, doesn't know anything about it. So another attorney is asking him, well, why'd you forward that then? And here is where we get a little bit more blanky.
I was forwarding it. I was asking, is it fake? Like, I couldn't believe that it existed. Like, this had never been told to me before. You know what I'm saying, June? This had never been shared with me about how...
The question is, have you seen this? Is it fake? Presumably, a natural reading of this is, check this out.
No. The natural... That may be yours.
That's a
Counsel.
reading of it.
No disrespect. My actual reading of it was shock. Shock.
About what? What is it?
That the situation, the context, the history. Look, these are not good answers for my brother that I'm giving you right now. I understand that. But it happens to be the truth. Okay? I didn't know this so much so that I said, is it fake? Because I thought maybe this isn't true, that this is just being brought up the way a lot of other stupid stuff does. And that's what it was about.
He didn't even know if it was real, thought it was fake. That's why he forwarded it along. What do you think about Christopher Cuomo? Do you buy the story? What do you think were in those text messages that were so problematic that caused him to say, whoa, never seen those, totally disavow those, have nothing to do with those at all? Anybody can guess about it. Are we ever going to find out? Probably not, but we'll see. And we'll stick around to follow it along. And we hope you join us on that journey as well. Would love it if you subscribed. We have a live show that we do every weekday. It's a lot more fun if you're there with us. And so I'd love it if you stuck around, because I look forward to seeing you on the next one.